Nobility in the lands between is often more a curse than a luxury. While this may not have been the case during the height of the Golden Order, the vast swaths of wandering nobles show us what has become of most of the noble families who likely once lived in prosperity long ago. The demigods themselves have fallen to ruin, their noble blood being nothing more than a driving force that pushed them to conquer the land and stake their claim to its rule. It's uncommon for anyone of true status, especially non-tarnished, to have survived to this point, untouched by war, death, famine, and whatever else may have caused the nobles to shrivel into what resembles a walking corpse. Curiously, there's one man of means in the lands between who has not succumbed to the despair of the land. And how exactly he's done this is a legitimate question when it comes to the lore of Elden Ring. The Great Kenneth Haight is a man who believes in the right to rule, and does not turn his nose up at those who others in the lands between would consider lesser beings. He's a fascinating noble, and today we will explore his story and discuss the nuance that exists behind his somewhat pompous exterior. Welcome to Elden Lore, our weekly series where we break down the stories of the people, monsters, and gods of the lands between. Whether you're a longtime subscriber or this is your first time finding the channel, welcome. With over 100 episodes in our playlist, we hope you can find the answers to any questions you have about this world and its inhabitants. If there's something you'd like us to look into, let us know and we'll see what we can find. We also have a Discord where our community of FromSoft fans comes together to talk about the lore of this world and share our theories about Shadow of the Erdtree. If you end up enjoying this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. It goes a long way in helping us stay relevant in YouTube's algorithm, but no pressure. Your viewership is more than enough. With that said, let's get back to the story at hand. During our travels through Limgrave, we can pass by some ruins that create a bridge over top the roadway, and when we do, you'll hear a voice calling out for assistance.
Hello? Is anybody there? Someone who might be interested in rescuing the Great Kenneth Haight, servant to the True Order and celebrated repudiator of the false. Oh, Erdtree, grant me succor!
You may assume that this man is in danger due to the demi-humans below him, but that's not the case. If you speak with him, he will tell you his story and have a task for you.
You've come to lend me your aid, have you? Well, that's very kind, but, no. The help is very much appreciated, even from a tarnished. Despite appearances, nobility is no prerequisite to serving the True Order. You might have heard of me, Kenneth Haight. Next in line is the rightful ruler of Limgrave, young Tarnished. I would have a boon of you. I want you to take back my fort. It lies to the south, beyond the Mistwood. A knight commander from Stormvale took it. A fool! And plumb mad to boot. Simply obsessed with blood.
With our task set before us, Kenneth offers some advice and a reward for our service.
What are you waiting for? A kiss goodbye? My fort lies to the south, beyond the Mistwood. Take it back for me. Oh, I see. You wish to know the reward. Fret not. The Great Kenneth Haight is known for his considerable largesse. The celebrations will be lavish indeed upon the dawn of my fort's retrieval.
From here, Kenneth will share more of his thoughts on Godric, which actually sheds light on his cowardice during the many wars that took place in the lands between.
Yes. Now, allow me to furnish you with a little advice. I would take great care to avoid Godric's tarnished hunts were I in your shoes. That depraved lot are obsessed with sacrificing tarnished like you for the sake of grafting. Honestly, Godric's nothing more than a jumped-up country bumpkin. Lord? Oh, don't make me laugh. First, he hid himself amongst the womenfolk to flee the capital, then hid from Radahn in that castle. Then he insulted Melania, lost to her in battle, only to lick her boots rather than die like a man. Has he no shame, the big girl's blouse? And to think, He's the blood of Godfrey, last of the golden lineage, though you almost wouldn't know it to look at him. Yeah, I almost feel sorry for the chap the more I think of it.
Kenneth offers us a lot to unpack, as he tells us how Godric will do whatever he needs to in order to survive. And given that he sent one of his knights to take Kenneth's castle, it seems like Godric is really only taking territory he knows he can steal without too much of a fight. Once we reach Fort Haight, we see the toll the battle has taken on this place. Numerous slain demi-humans litter the area, and a demi-human queen lies dead in the center of the fort. This reinforces the possible relationship between Kenneth and the demi-humans, but we'll talk about that momentarily. As we make our way through the fort, we come face to face with the Godric knight Kenneth told us overtook his home, and after dispatching him, we can return to our benefactor and share the good news.
I've been waiting for you with bated breath. Did you manage to recapture my fort? Oh, excellent news, just wonderful. And the knight's dead to boot. Well done, my friend, well done indeed. I knew I was right to trust you. Now, here's your reward, as promised. Go ahead, it's all yours.
He then hands us an Erdsteel dagger, much the same as the one he uses to fight should you attack him, and it tells us it is an Erdsteel dagger with a grass crest engraved upon its blade, carried by the Erdtree royalty for self-defense in times of peace. Though forged to a high standard, the weapon is difficult to wield. We'll talk about the implications of this momentarily. Upon speaking with him again, Kenneth told us his plans moving forward.
Right then, time for me to head to the fort. I've much to do. First, I'll have to re-establish communication with the demi-humans. What's that look? You don't believe me? Well, under the Erdtree, commingling with the demi-humans is made possible. Even the vulgar shall not be left behind, under the rule of true order. Which is why I, Kenneth Haight, next in line as the rightful ruler of Limgrave, have sworn to uphold it. Just you watch, my friend. Just you watch.
We learn two things here. First, that Kenneth sees himself as the next in line to rule Limgrave, but does not tell us what claim he has to the throne, as while he may follow the Golden Order, he doesn't seem to be of royal lineage. And second, that while he considers the demi-humans vulgar, they are also his allies, and the demi-human queen we saw slain in his fort was not some kind of trophy, but a guest in his home that he opened the gates to. We can also offer to serve the Great Kenneth Haight.
Ah, yes. I've been meaning to ask, would you like to enter my service? I see bright things in your future, stout warrior. Enter into my service and learn the workings of the Erdtree's true order. And who knows, perhaps sometime down the line, the grace of gold will return to those tarnished eyes of yours. What say you? A fine accord, is it not? Very well indeed. I knew I saw something in you. I shall await you at my fort. We shall hold a ceremony for your knighting there, I think. I see great things ahead of us. We are truly by the Erdtree blessed.
This seems like a great deal. For our act of heroism, we are to be rewarded with not only the Erdsteel dagger, but a knighthood within Fort Haight. As a benevolent ruler of his lands, Kenneth could easily keep his word here, right? Once we make our way back to Fort Haight, we can speak with Kenneth in his home, and he'll tell us.
You, is it? I suppose you must have seen it by now, yes. The sorry state of my fort. Oh, indeed, it is a foul fate for a land to be without a ruler. And one must be found, with haste, and not that awful Godric, but a true and stalwart lord of the proper lineage to take the reins of Limgrave. I am sorry to have lifted your hopes, but I haven't the authority to raise you to knighthood as things stand. The Great Kenneth Haight issues his sincerest apology. But now, I must begin my search post-haste for a true and stalwart lord of the proper lineage to take the reins of Limgrave.
Suddenly Kenneth's tune has changed. He's not calling himself the true heir to Limgrave, but now he's nothing more than a servant for this potential new lord who would be better equipped to lead. Why Kenneth changes his mind on this front is a mystery. Perhaps this is because his approach got his subjects killed, and his home taken and disrespected. Maybe he felt the weight of the responsibility of ruling Limgrave. Or maybe he's being sincere and believes only one more closely related to Godfrey by blood should sit on this throne. We don't hear from Kenneth again until completing Nefeli Loux's quest, where she, Gostock, and Kenneth stand in the throne room of Stormvale Castle, conversing with each other. When we speak to Kenneth, he says,
Nice to see you after so long. Safe and sound, I take it, yes? Good. Quite. I have indeed selected a new ruler. Lady Nefeli is strong and just, worthy of the burden of Limgrave's lineage. Such is the sincere opinion of Kenneth Haight, no less. For the time being, I share command of the castle with my lady, but I plan on returning to my fort afterwards, at which time I can fulfill my old promise by raising you to the glory of knighthood. I hope it is just as wonderful as you imagine.
Given his choice of Nefeli Loux, who can be assumed to be of close relation to Loux, it seems like blood is the most important quality to Kenneth when choosing his leaders. You could argue that Nefeli too has a diluted bloodline connected to Godfrey, same as Godric. But her devotion to battle and strength may be what sets her apart in this regard. She is fair and just, and protects those she can, as we saw during our time with her in the Albinauric village. Unlike Godric, who hunted Tarnished and used the limbs of his own people to experiment and discover ways to make himself stronger, so he could one day stand up to his demigod kin. In order to understand Kenneth Haight, we needed his story laid out in front of us, because I believe there is more than meets the eye when it comes to this character. Kenneth wields an Erdsteel dagger, which is said to be difficult to wield and only given to Erdtree royalty. So this would mean Kenneth is not only noble, but royal. He also has access to two incantations, Wrath of Gold and Order's Blade. Wrath of Gold is a superior Erdtree worship incantation. Produces a golden shockwave that knocks back nearby foes. This incantation was discovered when the Elden Ring was shattered, and it was feared as a sign of the Erdtree's wrath. And Order's Blade tells us it is one of the incantations of the Golden Order fundamentalists, used by hunters of those who live in death. Enchants armament held in the right hand with holy affinity attacks. This incantation is especially damaging to those who live in death. Any felled by this incantation cannot be revived. The role of the hunters is to stamp out defiled reason, all for the perfection of the Golden Order. Clearly this lays out Kenneth's views on the Golden Order. He's a fundamentalist, but much like those who came before him, he's also an opportunist, and is willing to bend the beliefs of the Golden Order, such as demi-humans being unsightly monsters, in order to consolidate power for himself, much the same way that the Golden Order accepted sorcery as no longer heretical once Rennala and Radagon were wed. His dagger being presented to royalty may also mean that Kenneth too is descended from the demigods in some way, possibly even Godwyn himself, as he shares his golden hair. This idea may seem far-fetched, but it seems as if Godwyn may have sired many sons and created a diluted family line, as it's strongly implied that while Godric is his descendant, he isn't his direct offspring due to the way he is referred to by Enya the Finger Reader.
Godric the Grafted was but a distant relation, the runt of the litter, his divine blood sorely diluted.
And he himself asks his forefathers one and all to bear witness, not simply his father. This could also add legitimacy to Kenneth's claim that he is indeed the next in line to rule Limgrave. Another interesting side note is that Kenneth was trusted with half of the Dectus Medallion, which means whoever assigned him his post at Fort Haight trusted him enough to seal off the only proper way to reach the Altus Plateau from Liurnia. This paints the picture of Kenneth as someone the Golden Order placed some level of trust in, perhaps due to his heavily diluted connection to their bloodline. This would even explain why he sees Nefeli as a better option for ruling Limgrave. Not only is she a descendant of Godfrey himself, but of his tribe, meaning she likely has closer blood ties to Godfrey than Kenneth would. Why the Great Kenneth Haight chose to seek out another to take the throne of Limgrave, and didn't ascend to it himself, is a mystery. But perhaps we made a good impression on him. During our first interaction, he seemed resistant to work with the Tarnished, but after we put our life on the line to return his fort to his rule, he seems to trust us and put stock in our future, even apologizing for not being able to fulfill his promise. I think it's possible that we showed him that Tarnished are worthy of deeper respect. And knowing that Godfrey was the first of our kind, Kenneth understood that one of us may be the rightful heir to his land. If he could tie his candidate's bloodlines back far enough to connect them to Godfrey. This is why he seeks out and chooses Nefeli to sit on the throne. Because the Great Kenneth Haight now understands that blood is not enough to rule, but blood and benevolence together may be able to steer Limgrave in the right direction. At least that's my interpretation of his actions, and some may be less kind than me. Thank you for joining us for this look at the story of the Great Kenneth Haight, ruler of Fort Haight and possible descendant of royalty. Do you believe Kenneth can trace his roots back to Godwyn? Do you believe that Godwyn sired children with lower-born people in the lands between? Why do you think Kenneth changed his tune and decided Nefeli should be the leader of Limgrave? Would you want to serve as a knight under the Great Kenneth Haight himself? Let us know your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and set notifications to all so you never miss out on any of our lore dives. We look forward to seeing you again for more Elden Lore.